Hey guys, so if you're watching this video, you are in Virtual Advanced Chemistry. I'm Mr. Franklin. Some of you likely have met me and know who I am. Some of you maybe have not. So today we're just going to kind of get introduced to the course, kind of what we would do on the first day of class, just get to know how the course works and what the expectations are. Before we do that, a little bit about me. You really won't ever see me a whole lot. You'll see me in some of the videos, but not a ton. So there's some pictures of me if you want to know what I look like. There's my two dogs, Bo and Harper. That's my wife. Those are not my children. Those are actually my nieces. I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan, so if you like to talk about baseball, and then I'm a big University of Alabama fan as well. That's where I went to college. So now, more importantly, about the chemistry class, we cover about 8 chapters each semester. So at this point, it's really not important that you know what those chapters are. More importantly, and I'm sure the question all you have is, how in the world is online chemistry going to work? So I'm going to kind of take you through what every week and what every chapter is going to look like. So on Google Classroom, what you'll see if you get joined up, if you go to the materials, there'll be topics. So under each topic, whether it's chapter, I called it chapter 0, that'll just be the first few days, the kind of things we do before we actually get into the first chapter of the class. But then we have chapter 1 will be the actual first chapter that'll be tested. So everything you will need for chapter 1 will be in this folder, okay? So we're not going to have one folder for submission links, one folder for notes packets. We're not going to do that. Try to make it as simple as we can for you. Everything for this whole chapter, including the test when the time comes, will be in this folder. So once we start a chapter, the first thing you'll see pop up in each folder is the to-do list. So at the top, you'll have the chapter. You'll have the major objectives of the chapter. It'll say the approximate number of school days we're going to spend. At this point, things are still subject to change, but eventually when I post it, I will have the date of the assessment. And in this chapter, we have another little quiz mixed in where you learn your chemical symbols. So I'll have those dates on there. And then basically you just go down the to-do list and go in order. The first step in this one would be to watch video 1.1 and take notes. So if you click on the link, you'll be directed to YouTube. So a couple of things about this. If you aren't aware, obviously you can pause the video and you'll be instructed several times throughout the videos to pause the video, try a problem on your own, and start the video back. Obviously you can watch these videos as many times as you want to. So if it didn't quite make sense and you want to go back and watch it again to review for the test, it's also perfectly okay. As you probably have found out, I tend to talk pretty slow. I have a pretty thick accent. So if you want to change my speed to 1.25 speed, if you can handle that, that's perfectly fine. If you want to slow me down to half speed, that's also perfectly fine. Whatever you need there to be successful. Also, I'm human. If you think I made a mistake in these videos, by all means, shoot me an email. You're not going to offend me. Odds are there are a few mistakes throughout these videos, and I will get those corrected as soon as we discover them as I move through the class. So also in the folder, and this is my view, you can't see these things yet for each chapter, you will have a notes packet. Okay, so this basically is just to limit the amount of writing you have to do, so it kind of guides you through. And it also has some problems that we'll work through. So if you can, it is ideal to print this out and be able to write on it each chapter. If you can't print it out, go ahead and convert it to a Google Doc. You can type your notes in there, or you can just follow along with it on your screen and just take notes on your own paper, whatever works best for you. But if at all possible, I would advise printing out the packet for each chapter. So if we look just for this to-do list, for example, and this will change before I post it for chapter 1, we'll have the due dates for different assignments listed throughout. And then I will post the submission link on Classroom for you to submit that. So just make you aware, everything that, quote, has a due date, okay, just because it's due doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be due for a grade. Okay, so I'm not going to grade every single thing we do. A lot of times it'll have a due date, and that's more for you to know, I need to have it done by this point. And then I'll post the answer key, and then you can grade it on your own and kind of self-assess where you are and see where you are in reference to being ready to take the test. So just a couple of notes when we do submit things. If it's something you can do in a Google Doc, if I'm asking you to type a paragraph, then by all means submit the Google Doc. But if it's something, whereas most times it will be where you're having to do calculations and write out and show work on paper, you want to submit a picture of it. Okay, that's the logical way to do it, unless you can scan. If you can scan, that's perfectly okay. But submit a picture, but please don't submit images on Google Classroom. And what I mean by that is I'll have a submission link for whatever the assignment is, and you can post or submit it to Google Classroom. But please put your images inside a Google Doc. So if you have 3 pages of work for one assignment, take 3 pictures, put them all inside the Google Doc, name it, and submit it. We do that for a couple of reasons. That way I just have one submission from you for that. But more importantly, it's a lot easier for me to give you feedback on Google Docs. I can leave comments, and that way when I grade it, I can show you what you did wrong and show you the correct way. That way you just don't see a score pop up and have no idea what you did wrong. So that should make it easier for both of us as we move along. So obviously, Chapter 1, for example, will take approximately 10 school days. So that's going to encompass more than 1 week. But I'm going to go ahead and post the to-do list for the whole chapter. So again, you'll see that in the folder. But then every week in what they call the stream in Google Classroom, you'll get the notification for this. I'll post kind of a day-by-day for the week what you should be doing. So each week there'll hopefully just be one post in Google Classroom, and you can see if you're behind, need to get caught up, and what you should be doing each day. Okay, so some days, the only thing you should be doing is watching a video and taking notes. So if you want to work ahead, that's perfectly okay. And sometimes things don't, break up evenly into days. So I might say, for this week, here are the 3 things you need to do. Okay, that doesn't mean you should only work on chemistry for 3 days. That just means that one of the particular assignments might take longer than the 50 minutes we would normally use in class, or it might take several hours to complete. So if we were taking it in an in-class setting, we would work on it over several days. Okay, so just be aware, just because you only have 3 assignments for a week doesn't mean you should only spend 3 days. And just if you have 10 assignments for a week, for example, those are likely smaller. So don't be hung up on the number of assignments of the week. Just try to stay on top of it and stick with the pacing guide that I give you each week. So with that being said, if you were taking this class in person, you would spend 50 minutes a day working only on chemistry. So that means no distractions, no cell phones, you're focused in on chemistry. Plus, you would probably go home and do homework or study on most nights. So I realize with you sitting at home, that 50 minutes of class time plus extra homework time is going to seem like a really long time. Okay, so be diligent. I would set out a block of time each day and say, from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock every day, that's my chemistry time. I'm going to put my phone away and I'm going to work only on chemistry. And I think if you have that set out block of time each day, you'll find the course much less daunting to complete. Okay. And with that being said, I will, before the first chapter, for what I'll call Chapter 0, I'll probably post some things the first few days, one at a time, to get us used to the class. And then next week, once we dive into Chapter 1, you will get the post at the beginning of the week with all your assignments. You will have your to-do list for the week, and then you probably won't hear from me again. Okay, so that doesn't mean I'm not here to help. That doesn't mean I won't help you any way I can. I just don't want to bombard you with information. I think it makes it more difficult if you get 5 notifications a week from me with 5 individual things, rather than me just posting everything at once. So if there is something that I think the whole class needs to hear about, I'll make an announcement or a post, but I'll try to limit those as much as I can. So also, with that being said, if you were in class and you had a question or you got stuck, you wouldn't hesitate to raise your hand and ask me. Okay? You would ask me right then. You wouldn't wait till the next day or later. But the same thing is true with this class. If you have a question about a video, pause the video, send me an email right then. Okay? A lot of times if you don't understand what's going on, you can't move forward. Okay, so please don't hesitate to email me, and I will try to respond as soon as I can. Obviously, I can't promise that I respond immediately because I do teach other classes in person, but I will get back to you within the day as quickly as possible. A lot of times I won't respond to an email with text. What I'll respond with is a video. I think it's a lot easier to explain sometimes like that. And then I will send out instructions later on some Google Meets that we'll have each week. And those will likely never be mandatory. They will be optional. They will be a time for us to have kind of a question and answer thing to talk about different issues you might be having. And then anytime you're struggling and you want to schedule a meet with me, that's perfectly fine. Okay, just send me an email and say, hey, can we do a live chat, a live Google Meet? And then I can have my document camera and I can show you how to work a problem or whatever we need to do for you to be successful. And my goal in this class is obviously for you to learn the amount of chemistry that you would if you were sitting in my class in person, but I want to make it as low stress for you as possible. I don't want to add any extra work to you. So don't think because you're in an online class, you're going to have to do less work than the people in my class or even more work. You'll find if you have friends in my class, what you do at home is pretty much the exact same thing that they'll be doing in the in-person class. So I would urge you also, after you watch this video, to go through and read the syllabus. I posted some helpful hints on what you'll need to do to make the class a little bit easier for you. Another thing in Google Classroom, it would be very helpful, if at all possible, to go ahead and print these documents. You'll need a periodic table. If you were in class, I would give you one on cardstock, but obviously I can't do that because you're at home. So print out the periodic table and these documents, put them in a plastic sleeve, put them in the cover of a binder, put them somewhere where you have easy access to them, because we'll reference them almost daily once we get rolling in the class. Okay, so that's the basics of how the class is going to operate, what you'll expect for each chapter. You'll get the to-do list for each chapter, and then each week you'll get a post in Google Classroom telling you specifically on this to-do list what you need to do for that week. Another thing about the virtual class is if you were absent in a real class, and for whatever reason, whether you were ill or had a death in the family, I would realize that because you were absent. But in an online class, if you don't do something, I just have to assume you just chose not to do it. I can't know what's going on in your life unless you let me know. So if there's a situation that would cause you to be absent, if you were in person, if you're ill or have a family situation, just shoot me an email and I'll be as flexible as I can with that. But I can't work with you if I don't know what's going on. So try to keep me informed for whatever you have going on there. Another thing is, if you were in class, I can probably pick up easier if you're struggling. Okay? With the online class, it's easy to get behind very quickly. So as soon as you sense that you're having issues or have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know so we can get the issues worked out before you get too far behind. And so that's the basics of how the class is going to work. Let's go ahead and look at a few other things. One thing that we will have a recurring assignment of every chapter is what I'll call the one-page chapter summary, or I'll call it the one-page summary quite often. So this is something you'll see in every single to-do list you'll get. It'll be towards the bottom, complete the one-page summary. All that is you'll take all your notes, everything you've learned from the chapter, and condense it down to a single page. Okay, so I want you to not copy every note you took, but copy the most important things. The goal of this is when you get to December and you're studying for the exam, instead of studying 300 pages of notes, you might can just study 8 pages. Okay, so go ahead and condense your notes down. You'll submit that to me as a picture, and I'll give you a few points for that. But also, it should help you study for each test as well. So then for the grading, 70% of your grade will come from tests, quizzes, and lab reports. I'm still trying to think about how the lab reports might work for this class, so that's if applicable. We'll see how that goes with online. Then 30% will be from labs, classwork, and homework. There won't be many graded assignments each week. So it's not like you're going to have 6 grades every week. So there won't be just a ton of assignments. So a couple of zeros can add up very quickly and hurt you. So be diligent, stay on top of that, and don't be in that situation. A very important part of chemistry is actually doing hands-on labs. So we're going to try to do as much as we can with labs in the virtual setting. Sometimes there will be virtual labs where you can go in and do a simulation. Sometimes you'll be watching a video of me doing an experiment, and then I will send you out the data that I collected, and you can answer the questions based on that. So that will change from chapter to chapter and from assignment to assignment. So I made a note down here. All tests in chemistry in general are semi-cumulative. Okay, so you have to know what you learned in chapter 1 in order to understand chapter 3. And that's another reason why we do these one-page summaries, to make it easier on you as we move from chapter to chapter, to kind of refresh your information, refresh your brain on what we already covered. Okay, so hopefully after watching this video, you feel confident, you feel more comfortable about what's going to happen in this class, so you can go ahead and move on to your next assignments that I have listed out for the first week, which will be a short week, and then next week we'll actually dive into chapter 1 of chemistry.